Views expressed on contacttalkradio.com are those of the guest hosts and callers, and not necessarily of this station, its management, or other advertisers.
This is contacttalkradio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on tunein.com, hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Here comes the best part.
Welcome to Life Mastery with Todd Allen, the talk radio show that dives into the science of higher consciousness. Join Todd and his guests weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific Time and learn how to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery. Enjoy a survey of inspiring topics such as abundance, intention, health, manifestation, love, and transformation. It's all right here. Leading authors, speakers, coaches, entrepreneurs with stories and messages to support your well-being, let alone your most evocative of dreams.
Hey, it's another groovy day, and it's a big groovy day because Master Radio Day. Yay! This is the favorite day of the week for me. I get to hang out with some really cool people like my co-host Jackie Bailey and our guest. We have a really cool guest today, Essi. But before we get started, I want you to just take a minute. We're not going to get all into it today, but just take a minute, take in a deep breath, and just think about what it is that you're grateful for. There is a lot of things to be grateful for in your life. I just know it. We all have them. But consciously focus on those just for a minute. Take in a deep breath. And then anchor that gratitude with just the big let it all just flow right up through your solar plexus, through your heart center, and right out of your speaker box. All that gratitude, focus on that. Be grateful. You got a lot to be grateful for. I know you do. I just know it. As always, my co-host is with me today. The amazing, the wonderful, the talented Jackie Bailey. Yay.
Are you talking about me? Looking around, what? Who? Who's your co-host today?
My co-host. I do want to remind the listeners that there is no Facebook Live today. So if you're listening, if you're trying, I guess I can't even talk to them if they're looking. Hi, Jackie. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, I'm grateful. I started physical therapy today.
Yay.
Yay. I'm going to try to figure out how to walk normally again with my semi-broken foot. No, it's all fixed now.
I wish there was some physical therapy for my ailment. I don't know that I could go to physical therapy for kidney stones. I'm not so sure that would work.
I don't know either. Maybe acupuncture, that could be physical therapy, but I don't know.
Go see the doctor. That's the physical therapy.
Yeah.
How's things going in the Speak Feed Lead project?
Well, today, keep your fingers crossed, we are submitting a proposal for a big grant. And hopefully they will see our purpose and love us and want to give us money. Because we're, nonprofits were really hit hard by COVID. I mean, all small businesses were. But nonprofits who thrive on funding from individuals and organizations and government agencies been really hit hard. And the Speak Feed Lead project is no exception. And so we are submitting a proposal for a big grant today. And we won't know if we've gotten it for probably a month, but we'll just keep our fingers crossed the whole time.
Wow.
That they like us.
Well, we'll hold big energy. So I saw some email traffic. Do you have an event coming up on the 27th? No?
I have events coming up all the time. We got classes going constantly, but I don't have anything other than that coming up on the 27th.
Okay, no. Then. I get it. I want to remind our listeners that today's show page is at www.lifemasteryradio.net. You can go there, and any links that we talk about on the show today will be right there on that page. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter. Jackie creates a newsletter every week, and it highlights who's been on the show, who's coming on the show, and she creates a blog post every week, a really cool blog post that it's her perspective on the show that we did that week. So it's really cool. Our guests really like it. I think they appreciate it. Some of them have been sharing it. And then I use some of that text on the YouTube channel. Life Mastery Radio has a YouTube channel. All of our past shows go up there. Jackie, it's amazing. You're just regular every week. You show up and you have some cool people and you have an awesome discussion with some cool people. And then you look back and wow, there's like 50 shows in YouTube. It's just amazing.
It is. It's really cool. It's amazing how many wonderful people we've shared to the world, in just this small little outfit that we have going on here, this little platform we have, and it's been really cool.
And I have a blast. And now we're starting to get people coming back.
Now you're freezing up a little bit.
Round. Check 1, 2, 3. Am I okay?
You're freezing a little bit.
It says choppy. My internet connection is unstable. How's that? Anyway, I was just going to say, now they're coming back around and people are saying, well, I had such great fun on your show. I'd like to do it again. I don't even have to go to them. So that's
nice. Cool. Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. We have a wonderful guest today, and Jackie did such a great job. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago?
I don't know. Maybe it was last week. I don't remember.
Introducing our guest because I had an and I think while you're doing it this time, Jackie, I'm going to jump off and reconnect and see if I can't, because I do see it shaking up a little bit. So Take it away.
All right.
Jackie.
We'll see you back in a bit.
Okay.
Well, today we have a very special person who I met because he did some volunteer work for my nonprofit and he spoke on our summit. He is a child sexual assault victim. He's a boy soldier. He's a teen father, and he's an adult recovering drug addict. Essi Bagheri has lived 1,000 lifetimes in his relatively short years. Born in Iran in 1966, Essi was a young, vibrant boy whose world was shattered when he was brutally assaulted by a family friend. Seeking to escape and redeem himself, he was brainwashed into joining the Revolutionary Guard. But he became disillusioned when he watched his close childhood friends be blown to smithereens by landmines. Desperate to escape, he shot himself in the arm, only to be honorably discharged and treated as a hero. What followed was a lifetime of hiding, running, drug addiction, and alcoholism across 4 continents, as Essi attempted to outrun his past and his shame. But it's only when his path of self-destruction found him living on the streets amongst the most downtrodden that Essi finally found forgiveness and redemption. Today, Essi is sober and clean. He lives a full and happy life in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. He's a motivational speaker and spends his time and energy helping others recover from their traumas and addictions. So please join me in welcoming our special guest, Essi Bagheri. Yay, Essi, it's so great to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Jackie. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yes, I was telling Todd about you when suggesting that we have you as a guest, because with all the trauma that you've experienced in life, you are the kindest person. And you probably haven't always felt that way, that you weren't kind. It sounds to me like you had some real doubts about your own worth and value. Mm-hmm. So where would you like to start with your story? What would you like to tell people about the beginnings of some of your trauma or how your life shaped up? I'll let you start wherever you'd like to.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Well, for sure. First of all, I really like the start the meeting, the show with the little meditation. I do a lot of meditation, and it's really brings us back to now and to this moment. And first of all, I'm very grateful and blessed to be alive and to be anywhere. And now in in Vancouver, British Columbia, beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, on your show. And what I wanted to start is to say my whole message of what I'm trying to do to inspire and to transform life and to let people know. Doesn't matter how um, if it's through my book or through my speaking engagement or a podcast. What I wanted to the listeners to take away from my message is to never ever give up, and here is why. And you gave us a few example with your presentation.
Well, I know even from your earliest moments in life, you had some trauma as an infant, right?
Yeah.
You were taken from your mother. Can you tell us a little bit about the circumstances of that?
For sure. See, my mother was 11 years old when she married my father, who was 32 years old.
Mm,
That's by itself is like, like when I talk about it, people, wow. And then I was separated from her when I was 6 months old and raised by a different woman. That's by itself, it was like even it was a trauma. It's Then by the time, so many unfortunate things happen by the time I was when I was 5 years old, I find out that I have two mother.
mm.
And I said, what? And it's like I couldn't understand it. That's what by itself was a trauma. Before age of 9, I was sexually assaulted, beaten, and psychologically abused. That's by itself, and I'm not even 10 years old. And the rest is just it's just yeah. I can. I was talking to a TEDx organizer regarding, as you know, I did a TEDx talk, and he says, Essi, you don't just have one talk in your life, your story. You can have 10 to 20 talks with your experience, and
Sure.
yeah.
So how did you, at 9 years old then, with these first being taken away from your mother, being raised by someone else, and then discovering that that person who you thought was your mother is not actually your mother, and then trusting a family friend and being betrayed all before the age of 10, as you said. What were some of your thoughts then? How did you survive that? Was there anyone that you could trust or turn to for solace or help? Were you all alone?
I I was all alone. I had everything. I had a lot of people around me, but I always felt alone from a very young age. From even 4 or 5 years old, I always felt alone and different. And and experiencing those incidents, the incident that happened to me before, I already mentioned before age of 10, then that by itself gives me I just wanted to I wanted to escape life. I didn't know how. Then revolution started when I was 13. Then I I joined the revolution guard, and I went it was in Iran, Iraq. Saddam Hussein attacked Iran, and then now that I have something to I thought fight for, but that was by itself is another huge trauma, being 13, 14 years old and trying to kill.
Yeah. So we're talking, this was about 1979 when the Ayatollah took over
That's
as the head of Iran. And that changed a lot of things, right? He became not only a political leader, but a religious leader. He changed some of the ways people could behave and act, right?
Yes.
Do you remember being affected by that much? I mean, I know you were a teenager, but do you remember it changing what you did, or how your mother or father reacted to that, or anything like that?
For sure. That was like as I said, I was 13 when the revolution happened, and I didn't know what's going on. And I knew that there was some noises, and then people start going to streets, and there were some people for it, some people against it, and so I really didn't know what was happening, but I felt that there's some changes happening. And as a result of that, I saw people fighting with each other in a very violent way, two different groups that they wanted to. So I experienced again more trauma at 13. But yeah, it has a huge effect on me.
So when you say that you're brainwashed to join the Guard, tell us what that means.
Well, I don't know what else to call it at the time because it's not like that I got forced into go to sign up and go to become a to join the Revolution Guard called Basij at the time, and it's like I saw Saddam Hussein attack Iran, someone attacked my country, and then and also I was already looking for something more extreme. Let's put it this way. I was looking for something more extreme to get out of me. It wasn't outside of me. It was, and I see these bodies coming from war, and I wanted that attention that I wanted to people because I really didn't care at that time about me being live. I was so much, I was shattered, I was damaged that I didn't care but I see these bodies coming from war and people are crying and cheering and respecting, and I really wanted to feel that, and I thought I'm going to go to war, and that's that's what happened.
Wow. Your
So it
family
was,
was not, go ahead, Todd.
oh, I was just going to say it wasn't that you were forced to do, but it was something that was appealing because of the glamour.
Well, it was very appealing because at the time, as I said, I was looking. Okay, but I always talk about this every time I ask this question. People who join gang, they join teenagers or kids that is joining these radicals in any aspect, in Islamic radical or whatever that gang. They wanted to be feeling part of something.
Mhm.
And when we are already empty inside, and someone comes and say, "Hey, join us and do this and bring us friends and drinks," and of course you feel part of something, and that's growth, and you become suddenly a gang member.
Right.
It's too late.
And
But
of course, you were looking for some place to belong because you learned that you really didn't belong to the mother that you thought was yours. And your own mother lived in a different village, so you didn't get to see her often. And maybe you never felt connected to your father either. So you were in this position of looking for something to belong to that was bigger than yourself, right? And
So
so even though you didn't necessarily want to be a soldier, it was a way to get that feel, that sense of community, and a way to perhaps even be lauded and celebrated for doing something great. You were just looking for some sort of recognition. So I understand that. So what happened then when you started training as a soldier? What was that like?
well, I it was like 6 months. We went through a really extreme training is physical, emotional, mental. By the time I finished my training, I was ready. I was ready to do anything. If I wasn't care about dying before the training, after training, I was like, and now it's for good. Now I so-called was for good cause, but I didn't know anything about like who the 14 years old kid does not know what's right and wrong. And now I'm in training and it's in a battlefield, me and a couple of my friends, and I see the atrocity. I see that bodies all over the place, bombs, noise, and then I see that one of my friends, we were in a suicide mission to dismantle landmine. That was my duty. And then and I saw my friend in front of me, one beside, one front. One of them stepped on the landmine and blow up. I'm witnessing this, and the impact of that explosion throws me 2 meters away, and I suddenly came conscious and said, "Oh my God!" And I couldn't breathe, and I don't want to die, and I can't go back and say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I changed my mind, and I don't want to go through my mission. What should I do now?"
So at that point, Essie, something clicked. So there was something. Was it? What do you think that was? Was it the goodness that was really inside your heart that just clicked, that said, "This is not right"? I mean, because a lot of people would have, well, not a lot of people, but some people experience that same thing and they just keep right on going.
Well, the only thing I can always say is something in my heart wasn't right, and I
Right?
was paralyzed with fear, and so I couldn't go through my mission. Doesn't matter how much training I did. Doesn't matter how much I was ready to go to the heaven and blow up to pieces. Doesn't matter how many virgin I was thinking I'm getting when I die. Doesn't matter. I didn't want, but I couldn't go back. So the only choice that I had to pick up my AK-47 and I put it in my left arm and shoot myself to escape. So they think that I got shot by Iraqis.
And then
Now,
that
Essie,
got you out. You were done with that part of your story, right?
Well, I thought I will escape and I'm gonna go home happy. Everything gonna be okay. And I had no idea, thought that the impact that's going to have on me for years.
Yeah.
wow. Now, as I hear your story and you're in this Revolutionary Guard, you're a terrorist essentially, right? I mean, to people in this country, we think of you guys as terrorists, and so when you hear that term, does that at all describe who you felt that you were? I mean, because obviously you had, as Todd mentioned, you had some good in you that changed your mind from feeling like I don't care if I live or die to all of a sudden going, I don't want to die. There's some, and so there's obviously some other purpose for you that you were placed here for. But terrorist, what does that sound like to you? Because when you describe that, I think of these people who enter the United States of America and they want to take us out. They're shouting death to America, which you experienced as well. In your book, you mentioned that they were people all around you shouting that. And so you've lived through that. What does it feel like to come to the other side of that mentality?
Great question, Jackie. First of all, I would like to, as I said, we are uh, in North America, Middle East, everywhere. We are being we haven't really given a fair choice to decide. I was having an interview in LA once, and same question. He says, "Well, we think here the child soldier, people doing things like that. The only word that we can use is a terrorist. But is it really? Because that's the idea, and that's the information that media basically present to the North America, to especially in US, because people have no clue about what that means. Am I calling? No, I'm not, because in my story, I am a person who was damaged mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in every aspect, and went to basically, I, you know, it was a war. So I don't think you can call that a terrorist. But again, we need to educate our listeners, we are
Yeah.
to about what it is what. And in my case, no, I'm just one person who was 14 years old, didn't know what to do at the time, and wanted to escape his life. And many years later, I'm sitting in front of you, the beautiful people, and sharing my
Yeah.
experience.
Well, that's why I asked, because I felt like maybe it was important to be able to understand the other side, that you were there for particular reasons, and it wasn't because you hated people. It was because you hated yourself, probably, and you were
Well,
just trying to find a connection.
for example, in early years, people were killing black people, slaving them. You call them terrorists?
Right.
What I mean, we can go through this. As I said, as I told you before, I'm not a political guy, but what I'm trying to say is, there's we done in we done our own share of unfairness and in life, and we have to. My whole message is, doesn't matter. Like the people that they read my book, and I'm pretty sure you have, and they say, "Oh my God, how can a person go through so much pain and suffering and become so loving and kind and considerate?" That's what I've been told. I don't call myself that, but and that so we can change. That's my
Oh,
whole.
totally.
We can
We don't
change for a better.
we don't know what we don't know until we know it, and then we can make different choices, right? I mean, what you described to me was a social programming, because you didn't know the difference. You didn't know what was on the other side. This is what you were. This is what you were. I don't want to say programmed, but this is what you were presented with, and this is all you knew.
Yeah.
It's
So
fascinating.
you injure yourself, you get out of the army, you're sent home. Everybody's celebrating your return. What were you happy then?
Well, for first few weeks maybe, because I was separated from the war zone and they killing and dying and again. But then I start to feel, of course, guilt, shame that I was a coward, I should have died, and that's all the things that start to take catching on to me, and that's how I couldn't stand in my skin another minute, and that's how I felt like I'm a frog, and I start drinking. That's where I start drinking and start using drugs to kill the pain. And then that, and then I got into the forced marriage, and then more trauma. Like people just they thought, well, what can we do with this Essi guy? And trying to everything that they knew in their best ability, uh, but everything failed.
Yeah.
Until I was in Syria, Damascus, and my drinking got so bad that I had to escape because the Iranian authorities find out about my drinking. And out drinking alcohol was against Islam and against the regime. That's my new chapter.
Well, you said something, Essie, that as I've always been intrigued with, and you know, the Middle East is a completely different culture, and they have thrived for thousands and thousands of years, and for some reason, arranged marriages have evolved. And but my question to you is that a traumatic experience, or is because it's a huge part of the culture?
No, it is a traumatic experience now that I am looking back. Maybe at the time that I was in it, I couldn't see it, as you say, because with the culture that you grew up, and in this case, I grew up. But when I look back, that it was like, this is a beautiful apple. There's nothing wrong with this apple, but I don't like apple. I like orange. You see, and then someone forced you, and then I had to run away from the city. So it was traumatic because I was already damaged as I don't know the word damage is the accurate word to use, but I was really broken in so many ways, and mentally, emotionally, and then so I gave up. But what do I know? Because as a result of that, I had two beautiful sons
Right.
in Iran, which I never been father to be
Mm.
honest. And there's a lot of guilt, shame. I had to do a lot of work and able to talk about these things right now, and I'm not regretted now.
So how
Yeah,
did
and
you get out of Iran? When did you leave?
Well, I after I find out that the Iranian authority find out that I was drinking, they sent me back to Iran, and then one of my friends in one of the offices that government offices, so Essi, you're in deep, so excuse my language, deep shit, and and then you better get out. So in a week, I gathered whatever I could money, and I escaped from Iran to Istanbul, and from Istanbul I went to East Germany, like bought the false visa, went to East Germany. From East Germany, I jumped into the midnight train and I went to West Germany, and I became refugee in a refugee camp for 2.5 years.
And your family was not with you? You were
No,
alone?
no, I was alone. One of the reason I was wanted to just ran away from my family. Like I couldn't be a father. I always talk when I talk to my son, the people, if I was in Iran at the time and I stayed, either I would commit a suicide or I would be like OD'd on heroin or drugs or something. I could not be a father because I wasn't capable of being to be a person um, to handle myself. Never mind two kids and a wife and family.
Mm. So what have you done then? You continue to be an addict and an alcoholic in this new place, or
Oh,
what?
my intention, I had all the intention. Like I went to Germany because I really wanted to have a better life and then bring my kids later. That was all in my mind, but I had no clue. Like you're talking about trauma or addiction. You know what? In Time magazine, um, there's a like backed by American Psychological Association. Up to 60% of all PTSD victims end up developing some kind of chemical dependency.
right.
So I was already in that category. So I've
Mhm.
been drinking, drugging in Germany. I can honestly say, since I left Iran, I never took a sober breath. Never.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
But at least it was legal in Germany, probably, right?
Oh yeah, of course. I ran out of money. Of course, after I ran out of money, I started stealing. I'm not proud to say that, but that's my story. I had run out of money, so I would go to a store and I steal booze. I steal whatever I could. I couldn't work there at the time. They didn't give us a visa, work permit or nothing. So um, every week they would bring a box of food or something in front of our house, and that's it. That was our thing. So I, thank you so much. I always appreciate German government that at least kept me there for 2.5 years to be able to have a choice to escape from there. And one of my friends came to Canada and said, "Essi, why don't you come here?" I said, "How?" He said, "Send me a couple of pictures." So I sent him 3 pictures. A few weeks later, I received this passport, Jose Antonio Gracia or something with my picture on it. It was a Spanish passport, and I came to Canada.
Wow.
That's amazing. But yet, I read your book, Essie, and it seemed like every once in a while you would pull yourself out of the trenches and be a huge success for a little while, right? And then you would just drive yourself back into the trench. Did I pick up on that right?
Yes, that's in Vancouver. You're talking, yeah, like yes, I would, because what's happening is I had no clue. I talk about it in my TED talks. I had no clue that is anything wrong with me. Talk. Like I didn't know. Like what are you talking about? Trauma? What is that? Like or addiction? I thought that's just this way of life. That's the cards I
Yeah.
deal with, and I have to play with what I have. And I had no idea about like trauma, addiction, depression, and all the things that I pass, check, 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 check. And yes, I would come and build company. There was time that, for example, I would come and build company with 20 employees, hundreds of $1,000s. And guess what happened? 6 months later, bang, my emotion, I couldn't handle it. And then I would lose everything. I pick up a drink or drug. And 6 months later, uh, Jackie, I'm in a alley smoking crack and drinking, and I'm wondering how that happened. And it just
Mm.
didn't happen once or twice. That happened repeated over and over and
Yeah.
over for many years.
I ended up in detox 3 times before I finally got it.
I've been to 17 treatment centers, 29 detoxes, psych ward, homelessness, you name it. People tell me why you're, because that's why, because I want people to know that you're not dealing with something that is, oh yeah, I'm not going to do this. And they call it about insanity. What else you call someone? If you talk to a so-called normal person that has a, say, hey, you know what? I went and I built a life, give promises to my friends, loved ones that this time it's going to be different. And
No.
everybody trusted me. And guess what happened? And I crushed everything to the ground. And then I did it again. And guess what? Now there's a possibility that I can do it again. What do you think they're going to call you? Go
Well,
see a dietitian or psychiatrist?
Yeah.
it's that crash and burn, because the last crash has you so burned out that you're going to just crash again, right? So it's just a cascading event of things, and it's an endless cycle of insanity. It is truly an endless cycle of insanity.
So
Yeah.
what finally happened then, Essie? What made the last time
The
take?
last time.
Well, I even through all these my treatments that I've been doing, I did some psychiatrist and counseling, but I never, because my drink and drugging always just interfere with my recovery until almost I'm in my 7th years of sobriety now. I'm in these shitty hotels, motels, and with the cockroaches and mouse, and I just missed my son's wedding, and I'm totally broke in every way, and I just fell down to my knees and I started bawling and crying, and the guilt that I missed my son and 20 other people drove from Isfahan, which is my city, to pick me up in Tehran, and uh, and I didn't have the guts to tell them that I can't because I was drinking. So I fell down to my knees and I said, I don't know what you call yourself. Jesus, Allah, Buddha, whatever you call yourself. Either kill me or save me.
Mm.
And something happened. I don't know. Something happened the next day. Two of my friends, they came, picked me up, and went to their place, and then I start my recovery. And since then, my mission is to help other people. I went to courses, trauma courses, psychiatrist, meditation, exercise, 12 step, anything that I could do to improve my life. And as a result, I'm sitting in front of you.
Wow. So
So
this happened back in Tehran, or this was while you were
no,
still in
this was in
Canada?
Canada.
This is in Vancouver, Canada. No,
Okay.
Tehran, I left Tehran 30 some years ago.
And you haven't been back at all?
Yeah,
I
he
have
did.
been back, yes.
Okay. Okay.
You
All right.
visited a couple times, right?
I visited 2 times, I believe, because after the many years they changed some regulation, and I find out that there is, you know, that's no problem now. That they were more easy with drinking and but I don't think that I can go now because I um,
It's a different place.
work with no with my book and my all the interviews that I had, and I talked about me shooting in myself and all these.
Oh,
So I don't want to take chance, but I someone said it's not going to be a problem, but I don't want to take that chance right now.
Yeah.
right.
So from your book, Essie, I gathered that this last time, which was your last time, the 12 steps were a huge part in the healing process. Is that correct?
Yes, I have to. My apology. I have to charge my.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
gotta charge
Well,
up.
let's take this opportunity to remind our listeners that you are listening to Life Mastery Radio with Todd and Jackie. I'm Todd, and that's
Hi,
Jackie.
Jackie.
I want to remind the listeners that you can find today's show page at www.lifemasteryradio.net. You can go there, check out the webpage, check out today's show page, check out my book, of course. And if you follow around, I think Jackie has a book too. You got your book handy, Jackie?
I
Jackie
do.
has a book,
I do.
Self-Centered Leadership, which was a really cool title. You know, I have to say, Jackie and I belong to an organization, and we were hanging out once a month, I think. And she all of a sudden one day showed her book. Hey, look, I wrote this book. And I was like, really? If she could do it, I could do it. And so that spurred me on, because I can't be outdone by Jackie Bailey. No way. We got to be on the same level. No, I'm just kidding. But I do say that was the main motivator. I was like, wow, she wrote a book. I can write a book. Oh, it looks like we lost our guest.
We lost Essie. He should probably get back here in a minute or two.
Hopefully Cam's not asleep on the board. No, I won't say that. He'll let him back in.
But what an amazing story, though, right? I mean, it's amazing that he's still here. And it just, like I said before, there's a purpose for this.
Yeah.
There's definitely a purpose.
And there he is. He's back. Welcome back, Essie.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank you. My apology.
No worries. You know, before we took a little break, I had asked you about the 12 steps and how important that was. Did those 12 steps just grab you by the scruff of the neck and say, look here, mister, here's the way?
You know, in a 12th step, really change everything about the way.
Uh-oh.
He froze up again.
Froze up again.
You know, Jackie, the 12 steps, like he was just saying, changed me in every fundamental way. And it took, just like Essie described, it took an act of desperation. I mean, I was on my knees, and I third time around, and I really had no choice. I really had to, I don't want to say succumb, but I had to get with the program.
Yeah. So is it a process where you take it in order, or are these things that you just skip around and do?
You definitely have to do the steps in order. And, you know, you have to become, the first step is the biggest step, and just realizing that you're powerless and your life has become unmanageable. Totally. And if you don't buy into that, it's pretty hard to get the next two.
Okay. But you say by that point, oh, maybe that's the key right there, is that whatever happens, whatever switch is flipped, it brings you to that point where I realize now my life is in shambles and I can't do this without help, right?
Totally. And
so,
that help not only comes from the understanding of a higher power, and you give your life and your will over to that, but it also comes from people like Essie sharing their story.
Yeah.
And finding the commonality in because it's everywhere. You hear somebody that has been through these kinds of things, and you can always hear your story in their story, parts of it. And You know, I can remember there was a woman that I was studying with, Mary Manon Morrissey, my spiritual mother, and she was going through a trying time, and that really helped me because what she was going through was far more contentious than what I was going through. And then I thought, you know, if she can get through this, I can certainly get through this. So
Yeah. Well, so that brings up the power of story, which is what you and I preach to people, right? When we're talking about speeches or presentations or even business branding, there's a story. It's the story that really connects people to you. You can provide all kinds of facts, statistics, and tools and steps and whatnot. But if you don't understand the story of where that person is coming from, where they've been, and how they've gotten to where they are, there's really not a connection there that is important for you to see so that you can be motivated by your own opportunity to change, right?
well, I think, you know, you and I are both involved in public speaking, and I think that's the art of the deal, right?
Right.
That's the whole art, is creating those stories that you can share and inspire with others, and help them find the commonality.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
Essie, looks like Essie's back. Essie has an amazing story, and you know, Essie, you have this dark night of the soul that probably lasted longer than most people would experience, that brought you to a point of complete desperation. And like you described, you were on your knees, and that's when the revelation occurs. That's when the change occurs, is from that desperation and that on your knees, I am done. I turn my will and my life over to you, and please help me through this. Did I get it right?
Totally. It's that gift of desperation, but that's not enough, because that desperation will fade away after a while.
That's true.
And in that, yeah, there's a certain time. And how do I know that? It's not like I watch it on TV or read the book. I experience it. After this, in any situation, you want to do this, yes, really. But after a while, you totally forget about the memory and suffering and humiliation of the time that, and it's, it's not that bad. And you don't take action. So my um, basically, my suggestion would be to, to just take action. Because action without word is death. You know,
Mm.
faith without word, action is, yeah, something like that.
You know, Essie, I can remember going into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and sitting through a meeting. That's part of the healing process, is hearing other stories.
Yeah.
But the steps would be on the wall, right? There would be the steps 1 through 12. And I can remember reading those and thinking, well, I could do that. And if I change this little part, I could probably do that. And there's no way I can do that, right? So, and that, I think that's what you're describing, is you have to come to that point of desperation, but then you got to do the work.
Well, totally. See, in addiction and or trauma, you get to the point that you say, you know what, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So that's really, in any situation, relationship, in work, in anything, you get to that point that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of what I'm doing. But that, there is a certain time that if I don't take action, massive action, which I which I took in a massive action, and as a result, I'm sitting in front of you guys. Yes, and my journey is just started. Let's put it this way. My journey of helping other people and impacting our world, I believe, as Jackie, I heard that you were saying, I went through all this pain and suffering and all the things that it's not just for nothing. And I'm pretty sure, and there's so many incidents that I should not be here. It's not just the war. Trust you read my book, the 18-wheel accident that the driver got killed, and I suddenly became conscious. And after a month that I saw the trailer, I said, oh my God, I could not see a place that they actually could see that they pulled me out.
Hmm.
I see things like that, and I realize, wow, you know what? It wasn't my time. There's something for me to do in this life.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just inspiring to watch other people grow beside, you know.
Oh my goodness, my friend, we only have about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
This hour just flies by. Did you have fun, Essie?
Of course, anytime I talk about myself, you know, I'm a self-centered individual. I like to talk. No, I'm just kidding. But
Be
now,
careful with that. Be careful.
of course, you know, I already met. I had a pleasure meeting Jackie before, and now you, and now we have something in common, and
Sure.
it's a
That's the way
pleasure.
it works. You have a great story, my friend. Is there one last message that you would have for our listeners?
Definitely. You know, one thing that I continue to do is gratitude. Doesn't matter, and you start the show with that. I really like that. That's why I think I can connect with you. Because either we are living in gratitude or fear. I can't live in gratitude and fear. So I really encourage you. We are so blessed to live in North America that we have a place to live, food to eat, and you know, and a basic bank account. We are a top 5% of the entire world. We are top 5%. What that means that the people in other side, that's why I was talking to you guys earlier about you know, you're so blessed that, you know, there are people, countries that they don't have that. They don't have drinking water. They don't have. So it's our job, it's our responsibility, I believe, to find the way to be grateful for. Because our mind always wanted to have more, better, bigger, and it doesn't matter how much we have. And gratitude for what we have and for this.
And I think it's really important to share our stories, right?
Oh,
Because your story, Essie, is going to, and you may not even know who, what, where, or when, but somebody's going to hear your story and it's going to change their life. And that's what it's all about. That's what Life Mastery Radio is all about.
Yeah. And I think it's important as I listen to your story, Essie, to remind myself that even though there are these consistent traumas, challenges, setbacks in life, that we have to keep looking forward for the change to happen, or for the reason to be clear as to why we've gone through all of these things, that there's a purpose for each of us, and that we continue on, even though sometimes in sadness or in shame or fear, as you say. But the important thing is to keep moving forward and looking with gratitude for those blessings, even how small they might be. But that's the message I take away from you is, you know, we can compare ourselves to other people all the time and think, oh, I want what they have. I want to be what they are. But what we should be doing is listening to everyone's stories and saying, look at what he or she has gone through and they've triumphed. I can do that too. But I really appreciate very much your message. Thank you.
Very cool. You know, Jackie, we grew up with a meme that describes just, well, there's that one. But what hit me was keep on trucking.
Ah, there you go. Yep.
Thank you so much, Essie, for joining us today. I had a blast. I know Jackie had a blast, and you told me that you had a blast too. So we all had fun. We all put out a great message, and that's what it's all about. That's about all we have time for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope that you check out Essi and his book. It's a great read. It's his story is just amazing, and for him to come out on top, that's the cool part. It gives everybody hope. Lastly, please make it a great day, because it is all about choice. Bye-bye for now.
Bye. Bye, Essie.
Bye.